parts you don't want.
Yeah. Okay, but yeah, so born and raised here in Corsicana, Texas. Graduated from a private school, Christian Academy, a year early, and then continued on to Navarro College, the community college here in town. Got my associate's degree, and yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. So you've been in Corsicana for
Yeah, my whole life, so 32 years.
What do you like about here?
Well, it's a small town. I don't like the busy hustle and bustle of, a busy city, so I like the community.
True, yeah. So, so how did you find out Homeward Bound? Like, you want to tell us a little about your story of recovery?
Yeah, so actually, so I ended up going into a mental facility because I overdosed. And during my stay at the mental facility, they was trying to find me somewhere to go to rehab. I had been on meth for maybe about 6 years, and I was finally at my breaking point, and I knew I needed the help, but I didn't know how to go about it. And so while I was at the mental facility, they was trying to find me a place to go, but unfortunately, by the time I discharged, there wasn't a place that had a bed available. So someone ended up actually telling me about Homeward Bound being here in Corsicana, and they had an outpatient program. So the next day after I discharged, I took my butt up here and applied, and that was it for me. I stayed in the program for about 5 months, came to all the groups, met with my counselor, signed up with my recovery coach, and that was it for me. I ended up actually getting pregnant while I was in recovery, so that was another extra bonus, and so I have a recovery baby. And then one day I was looking on Facebook, and I seen that there was a job for Homeward Bound, and it was describing that there was a house and they needed somebody to work for it. So I was doing my normal check-in with my recovery coach, and I was like, hey, what's going on new with Homeward Bound? I see, we're getting a house here. What's that? Like, I was excited about it. Of course, we don't have anything like that. We never have. So it was really exciting to know that we're growing here, more is coming. And so my recovery coach was like, you know what, you need to apply for this job. And I was like, what, seriously? And she's like, yes, I think you'd be great. And so therefore now I work for Homeward Bound. I'm a mental health peer specialist for our crisis respite house.
So cool. So when you were first in the mental hospital, then after that, which location did you go to for Homeward Bound? Dallas?
No, here, Corsicana.
So
I went straight to the outpatient program.
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
That's really cool. Okay, so when did your addiction start, and if you're comfortable sharing that?
I actually tried meth for the first time when I was 14 years old. So from then on, my addiction started, and it was through a variety of drugs, all. Started out just as a every now and then type thing, party, occasional, until it turned into an all the time consuming thing. In about 2015, that's when the actual meth addiction picked up, when it was the all-consuming drug for me. Which of course, I've had a lot of trauma in my life. So each time things would get rough, that's what I would pick up.
And you said you were on meth for 6 years then?
Yes.
So you got treatment?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, thank you for sharing that. It must have been really hard.
Yes.
Yeah. And do you think the issue with drugs is very large and often overlooked in places like Corsicana?
Yes. Like I said, because we haven't had anything here. And even, everybody here has a problem with it being such a small town, and there's nothing for our youth, to do. So therefore, there's nothing but trouble to get into. So therefore, drugs are a very big problem here in these small rural towns, and we don't have the resources that is needed. Everything's further north, and so of course, addicts, we don't reach out to that then, because it's not something close or foreseeable, to be able to do. So I believe that's why I stayed in my addiction so long, because there was just nothing here, no help. There is a stigma, for drug addiction. Nobody understands it, so therefore it's, it gets swept away. Let's throw them all in jail instead of getting them the help that they need. And so I was really glad when Homeward Bound came into town. Very glad. And that's why I also chose to work for them. If I can help anyone that's went through the same thing as me, then, hey, I'm doing something.
Do you think that it's changed now from like when your addiction started? Like, are there more resources for the youth, like you talked about?
Yes. I'm starting to learn more and more. Of course, every day is a learning experience in this field. But I believe yes. But I believe slowly but surely there's more and more popping up.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing that, especially like about, we were having this conversation about like rural towns and like addiction being such a rampant problem. So
it is,
just
yes.
Hearing your perspective is just really interesting to hear. But yeah, so more about your own recovery, like, so how did, like, what helped you, like what, I guess not the, I think you talked already about like what got you started in your recovery, but like what helped you stay in recovery? What was it that gave you the most strength?
Actually, working for Homeward Bound. They help me more than actually I end up helping them, I think. I get more out of it than they do, I think, sometimes. But it's definitely, it's been a positive factor in my recovery, as actually working for Homeward Bound as well. Yeah.
That's lovely. So, like, how many people do you think you personally have helped ever since you started working here?
I would like to say all of them, but I hope I left my touch on them all. But I want to say at least 10.
I'm sure just having you here, like in this town, and like you're somebody who's a local, I'm sure.
Yes, has been through it,
Yeah.
A lot of them that do come through, they see that, wow, okay, she's made it through, and this is what it can look like possibly for me in the future. And look, she has this job and she's doing this now. So a lot of them are like, hey, this is what I want to do too. I want to help people as well.
Yeah. So what does your like day-to-day look like at your job?
The day-to-day, so let's see here. I just went blank.
I was like, you can also be like, oh, I get a cup of coffee and then I come.
Yeah, okay. The day-to-day look like here at the job, so I barrel in.
Like all of us.
Well, of course, caffeine. Yes, get up, go in, coffee, and get the day started. Residents start waking up. We start talking, just hang out, listen to what they got to say, how their day, night has been, and we go from there. Start doing groups, I have the most amazing job. I get to hang out with these people and get paid to do it.
That's amazing. So, like, how do you feel now about where you are as compared to, like, where you were?
It's been a real eye-opener, and especially recently, it's a real eye-opener as far as, wow, this is where I used to be, and this is where I am now. Like, wow, I really have came a long way.
And are there any, like, memorable interactions that you have with any of the clients?
Yes, I actually had a female resident come in a few months back, and she was like a mirror of me. 2 years ago when I first started and came into the program, she was like a mirror exactly of me, reminded me so much of me. And I would like to say I left an impact with her, and she took everything I said, to heart. And I still think about her to this day, wondering if she's still doing good.
What was it about her that was so like mirroring?
She just reminded me so much of me, as far as how she acted and the trauma she had been through in her life that brought her into her addiction. She was just lost and needed, a guiding hand, in the right direction.
Lovely. How would you, if you had to use like a couple words to describe Homeward Bound, what would you say?
They're awesome. They're saviors. Like, seriously. They loved me when I couldn't love myself.
Do you still have family here? And
I do. I'm actually living with my parents right now until I can get back in my house.
Yeah.
But yes.
And how long has it been since your recovery date? Like, do you know?
It'll be 2 years on December 31st.
Are there any like particular interactions you had when you just started your recovery or going through treatment? Like any person or anything that you heard that really helped you?
I believe everybody's story, and just being in the program and environment itself, knowing that I wasn't alone, and then the fact that a majority of staff with Homeward Bound, they've once been in the same position themselves. So knowing that somebody else has been through addiction themselves was very comforting to know, hey, they made it out of this as well, and they know what they're talking about.
So like, what do you tell someone who is struggling, that you see struggling, especially from your own community? Do you reach out? What would you say to them?
Get help. Reach out and get help when you're ready. We'll be here.
Thank you. Is there anything else you'd like to share?
I don't think so.
No, all of that. It was all great. It was so nice to talk to you. Honestly.
Am I allowed to ask a question?
Yeah, for sure.
How is your kid doing?
Oh my God.
I was just like calling your kid like a recovery baby.
Oh,
I just
yes.
didn't know if that like
Oh my
meant
gosh.
something to you. If that really...
Yes. So he's awesome. He's now 1, and time has went by so fast.
Wow.
So fast. He is what keeps me going, honestly. He was put into my life for a reason. I didn't know what my purpose was at one point in time, and he is my purpose now. So he definitely strives. He's a major role in my recovery as well. He's
so
what keeps me going.
How old is he?
He's 1 now.
He's 1.
Yes.
Oh my
But it started as saying he's a recovery baby because, of course, I got pregnant with him while I was in
recovery.
yeah.
Oh
While I
my
was
God.
still in the program. And so one of my long-term goals was to actually have a family. That was something I struggled with. And so I knocked that out of the park as one of my short-term goals. I was an overachiever.
But no, that's so. When you see him every day, does that remind you of your?
Oh yes. I work 12-hour shifts, so by the time I get home, I'm like, oh wow. But then I see his smiling face, and I'm reminded of why I'm doing this in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you want to stay in Corsicana long term?
I guess. I'm already here.
I was saying I don't want to press you with that question.
I'm here. I've been here 32 years of my life, so I don't necessarily see me going anywhere anytime soon. I would like to see how things go forward in this community from here on out. So I want to see it become better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Those are
Yeah.
all my questions. Sorry, dude.
No, that's good. I'm glad you brought up the recovery bee. I was looking at my own question and I forgot it because that was so intriguing when you said that. I forgot to follow it up. But yeah, that's all I had.
Do you have any questions, Alex?
Alejandra?
Do you have any questions, Christy?
So,
No, that was so great. Thank you.